look, the problem with U.S. foreign policy is that it's based on a lot of lies, and the lies just keep spilling over. And I've now lived a long time hearing and actually studying the lies, because I go back to the Vietnam War era. My first lessons in geopolitics were in the 1960s. A lot of lies were told then, and not dissimilar to the lies that are being told now about the U.S. in Ukraine, actually. But the modern era in 21st century began with massive lies about Iraq. And I happened to be on a show the day that Colin Powell had made his presentation to the UN Security Council about Saddam's weapons of mass destruction. Actually, the Charlie Rose show, and I was in a group, and I think there were 6 of us around the table, and all of them said, yes, General Powell, he's telling it like it is. And they turned to me, and I said, it's lies. You can hear it. Actually, this is not the truth. And they focused the camera on me. Are you calling General Powell a liar? And I said, well, I'm saying he's lying. And of course he was. This was bogus arguments for a massive war that ended up costing the United States trillions of dollars. So all I can say is you get into the habit of it actually a little bit. In 2011, I happened to be on Morning Joe the day that, or maybe the day after President Obama, Secretary Clinton said, Assad must go. Okay, here we go again. Another regime change operation. Absolutely doomed to fail, as always. And I was on the show, and I said, this is going to be bad again. And they were very surprised because, as you said, it was the common narrative that Assad's bad, Assad must go. And we keep doing this in foreign policy. We make up narratives. We decide something. The State Department spokesman says it often enough. The White House declares something often enough. And for most of the media, that becomes the truth. It's weird. Don't people think? Well, actually they do think, because they don't believe the U.S. government, but a lot of the media don't question the U.S. government anymore. That's really disappointing, because the role of the media actually should be to be skeptical and to say, oh yeah, is that really right? Why don't you show us the evidence? And they don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too is they just really don't even know, right? I mean, Morning Joe and Mika Brzezinski, they're probably 2 of the more educated types to have TV shows on major cable TV news. But it seemed this is the enemy of the month right here, but neither of them were able to put it in the context that you were putting it in. That, well, wait a minute, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, these were the bad guys from the last war in Iraq on the other side of the line, and now we're calling them moderates, and we're pretending that the Shiite-aligned dictator in the 3-piece suit is somehow worse than a bunch of bin Ladenites.
Well, but I think the basic point is that with experience, you come to know that most foreign policy is conducted through these kind of confabulated narratives. We're not told the truth. It's not the business of the American people to meddle in U.S. foreign policy. That's the basic view of the permanent state. And we created, back in 1947, the CIA with the express directions. Look, you're a secret agency. You report to the president. I assume that's true. I hope all of the time, but who knows? But in any event, yeah, you operate in secret. So we designed a foreign policy based on secrecy. And when you're experienced in this over the course of many, many years, you know that you're not hearing even the basics. But at least there should be skepticism to realize this, but maybe even that point is not realized, or it's not worth it, makes the viewers uncomfortable. It is pretty worrisome to me, though, that these days on crucial issues, really issues that are potentially shaping the future of the planet, we don't hear two sentences of truth in a row often.
Yeah, boy, that sure is right, and especially with the current situation here. And I think this is probably anybody's experience if they've ever actually dealt with the media. If anybody's ever been in the newspaper, they know that, well, wait a minute, that's not what I said, or not exactly, or the reporter didn't understand what I was trying to tell him, or at best, right? Like, just about anything. So obviously you have a background where you know a lot about Russia. So this controversy breaks out in Eastern Europe, and you go, well, everybody, I got all this context for you. But they don't have that context. So obviously it's not that you're looking at it from Vladimir Putin's point of view, but from the point of view of an American who actually understands the background a little bit. So can you explain? I mean, they say, and they seem to mean it, sir, that Vladimir Putin has this right-wing ideology that says he has to recreate the Russian Empire. He's a revanchist, and we have to stand up to him, or else he'll be in Berlin in a couple of years.
Yeah, this is just the weirdest narrative, and a very unfortunate one. Putin did not want this war. He actually made diplomatic demands, I would say, but he made diplomatic demands at the end of 2021 that, in my view, and I said it to the White House actually, were the basis for serious negotiation. They weren't flippant, they weren't crazy, they were real. And the center of this, and I've watched this now for more than 30 years, pretty close up, is the question of NATO on Russia's border. And that's an issue, by the way, you could trace it for 2 centuries. Russia does not like what it perceives as a potential enemy or an actual enemy on its border. And when you've been invaded by Hitler and by Napoleon and by Palmerston and Napoleon III and lots of forces over history, you just want some space. And this current story did not start in February 24th, 2022. It started back in 1990. I happen to have been there, which is pretty weird, but I was an economic advisor to Mikhail Gorbachev, the last president of the Soviet Union.